G'day, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the DUC Migrating to Australia podcast. My name's Wes Zan, and today I'm joined by Darren Jonathon. And Darren, welcome, mate.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Very welcome. And in the pre-chat, you actually said that you actually have a podcast as well, which I wasn't aware of. But what is that podcast, mate?
Yeah, so it's Average Joe Down Under. You can just Google it if anybody's interested.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just about Australia, about my experience really, and a few friends of mine.
There you go. There you go. Now, you're a teacher and you live in Ryde in Sydney. And I went to Sydney many, many years ago. And when I was traveling Oz, and I think I stayed in North Ryde, I
Yeah.
believe. Has that got a national park down there or something?
Yeah, there's like a national park not too far away from us. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of near the Sydney Olympic Park as well. So you're kind of like not in the sticks, but you're definitely not with Sydney. But you're kind of like in between a bunch of different parks and public spaces, which is kind of nice, especially having a
Yeah.
dog.
And then you come out and you are kind of a little bit in the city. Because I remember I was staying there for probably in that national park for about 3 or 4 nights.
Oh yes, okay.
Many years ago. I remember
Yeah.
there was lots of loud birds and everything like that everywhere, but there's heaps and heaps of backpackers and migrants back then.
Yeah.
But I'm old now, mate. So I'm
No,
talking 20
don't
years
tell
ago.
me about it. That's me too.
Yeah.
Been here too long now.
So let's talk about that. So you started your journey back in 2010 on a working holiday visa.
Yeah, a little
And
while ago.
then, yeah, for the listeners, this is recorded on the 5th of the 16th. But so 2010, I've got to ask, mate, how old were you back then?
Oh goodness, my early 20s.
Early 20s?
Yeah, just like I guess, someone who's just come out of school and uni or whatever you're coming out of, just kind of decided that, Australia was maybe on the horizon, which was kind
Yeah.
of unexpected in certain ways, but not expected from me, I think. But yeah.
Yep. That's all right. So where was home?
So home is Belfast in Northern Ireland. Obviously, have been here since 2010 on and off. And even it's just kind of all the years blur together, It kind of goes so fast.
And so are you, is it just you, Darren? You got family, wife, kids, and just yourself?
Yeah, so basically just me. I came out alone in 2010, and then obviously since now, still alone, still here. My sister and her family have moved out as well, kind of seeing me and set up the life here. So I guess that it's kind of nice having family around.
Yep. Very good. So 2010, you came out on a working holiday visa, and my notes here that you also did a student visa. What did you study in Australia?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lots to that, but I suppose I had finished uni, didn't know what I wanted to do, went on the working, the whole backpacker sort of thing.
Yep.
Really didn't backpack, which was really hilarious. I actually brought a suitcase. I only really stayed like 6 or 7 months. And then I think I went home, and I guess I sort of had this epiphany or this like life crisis about like what I really wanted to do. And I kind of realized that it wasn't the degree that I did at home, and realized that I would like to have done teaching. So went back home, applied for all these unis and stuff in England and across Ireland, and realized that actually wasn't a possibility because of the global financial crisis just happened not that long ago. So they wiped a lot of the courses that I would have been able to do, just because it wasn't those main subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, you know what, if I can't go there and I'm not at home, I don't want to go to the uni that's like local to me. I'm just going to go to Australia. And I just decided one day that I was going to do it. My parents were like, right, okay, cool. You just have to save up the money and do it. So worked 3 jobs and got my student visa and came back in 2012.
That student visa. So you're saying that you did teaching on your student visa?
Yeah, so I came back and did. It was a graduate diploma in education at the time. I think it's now a Masters of Teaching you have to do.
Okay, that would have cost you a fortune on a student visa, mate.
Oh, don't talk to me about that.
Mate,
Yeah,
give us the
about
figures,
30 grand.
Darren.
Yeah,
Give us the figures, mate. What are you still? Well, you wouldn't be paying it off because you would have to pay it up front, or
yeah.
How does that work? So you want to study in Australia?
Yeah, well, that's good for people. Yeah,
changed?
you're right. You're 100% right that it is upfront cost. You have to pay everything. So I paid probably about 8 or 9 months or something upfront. So as long as you're able to pay your first semester, that's fine. You get your student visa. Everything after that, you have to keep paying in advance. But you still get your visa for the whole year. You just have to make
Yeah.
sure that you keep up the payments before that sort of payment date. It worked out about, I think, around something around like 18,000 dollars at the time,
It's not much.
yeah, but I think that was back then,
I was
um,
gonna
and that was because it was only 1 year, and I had already done a degree, so it was kind of only a
Yeah,
1 year course. But
sure.
that then led to another degree, which was the next year in 2013, because to be able to stay here on the visa that I wanted, that I could have got it back then, I had to do 2 years of Australian study. So
Mhm.
obviously, I studied the education, another education degree, which was a year, which is a graduate diploma in primary. So I did
Yep.
secondary the first year, primary the second year, really.
What was better?
Oh well, I mean, I think I like both. I mean, but I was basically just secondary kind of it fell into my lap basically straight away, like the job and everything. So
Okay. Young Darren, back in 2013, 2014, you finished your student visa. What visa did you receive to remain in Australia?
yeah, so I did the 2 year student visa, and then I was able to do I think you get like a couple of months or a year afterwards, like, post work or whatever.
Yeah, graduate.
Yeah, but because I'm back then, I met all the criteria to get all the points. So, went and did the whole points calculator and did my IELTS and, went through the whole process really of getting all my documents ready. And then I applied for the 186, the independent visa under the secondary teaching. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So for the listeners, this is a bit because it's so far back. That's not the ENS employer sponsored 186. That's the new, that's now what's referred to as the 189.
Oh, okay. So it's 189 now. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, cool. So you got that done, and then are you a citizen of Australia now, or you just remained on a PR?
Yeah, so I got PR probably literally, I think, not very long after I finished and applied and got the visa. Once I was independent, I was basically that was it. That was me. That was the independent visa granted. I had to stay one more year because I'd been already in there. I think it was a year and a half and got the citizenship in
Hmm.
2015.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, but how long did that take you then to get citizenship?
It was pretty quickly. It was probably because it arrived in 2012. I think by 20 end of 2015, I had citizenship.
That's
Maybe,
so different to now,
yeah,
mate.
yes,
Now you got
totally.
to be on a permanent residency visa for 4 years to be
Yeah.
eligible to apply for citizen. Because on your notes here, I'm reading it. I'm thinking, oh, that's why I didn't throw in that day. Because I'm thinking that's very quick.
Yeah,
So
it actually got really granted really quickly, and I was actually really surprised that it went through so quickly. But obviously, because having family here now who went from PR to well, even they applied for PR and now citizenship, and they've waited 18 months to even get citizenship after being here for 5 years or 4 years or whatever. So it's a very long process to what it was back then.
yeah, yeah, I bet. God, it was something. It's always been. It's weird to say this, but migration. And before your generation, mate, we had the £10 poms,
Yeah.
which is a little bit easier. And then now we got the, I don't know, the $100 million poms
Yeah.
that are coming over, spending lots of money, I guess,
Mhm.
on skills assessments, English test, visa costs. We got they'll probably because we're getting close to the end of the financial year. They're probably each year they never really put the immigration costs down, but it always goes up a little couple of percent as well. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I've noticed, and I can even attest to that, that the even seeing my sister apply for things and noticing the costs and realizing like actually, oh my goodness, I paid very little for what I
yeah.
got back then. The costs have gone up.
So what visa is your sister going to go on, mate?
So she is already PR at the moment, and she's
Yeah.
just waiting on that the coveted citizenship, but it's been taking a while.
What and she applied for the skilled independent visa as well, and under what
Well,
occupation?
actually, she was. They got the secondment from him. The work, his job
Yeah.
basically sponsored him. And
Okay.
yeah, so it was a bit different.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. So he's on employer sponsored. She's a partner. ticked the boxes and then been here for a while.
Yeah.
So who's left back home in Northern Ireland, mate?
All the family, all the rest of them, unfortunately.
Yeah. And have they got plans to come over?
Yeah, so they probably get over about at least once a year, if not more. Sometimes it just depends on, because my sister just had a baby, so obviously, family's a bit more important at this point, really.
Yep. So by her having a baby, your status in the
Yeah.
family, where did that go,
Uh,
mate? From 30% to 3% now, or
like it's they're not even here to see me at all.
you're like your arms and legs are waving everywhere? Guys, I've been here for bloody since 2010.
Yeah, I know.
Get the odd Facebook call, and then we have a baby, and then all of a sudden everyone's
Yeah,
over.
that's it.
That's it. So, all right. So, initially, going back to 2010, what actually inspired your move to Australia?
Well, basically, I think when I was younger, I suppose I came here like sort of on a, I wouldn't say recon trip because I was young, but I was traveling with my family, and I guess I caught the travel bug quite early, and it just really, I guess I wanted more to experience. I wanted to experience a different way of life. The sun, makes a big difference to your life, and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess just kind of was always stuck, in my head at some weird way that, Australia be good to explore like other avenues, potentially visas, if that was the case
Hmm.
in the future.
Yeah. And as a teacher now, you said your high school teachers fall into your lap. So I assume you're a high school teacher at the
Yeah,
moment?
so after 2013, then I just went straight into a job, kind of back and forth, casually teaching to begin with, contract work, and then over since then, probably worked, you know, full time since 2014 as being a teacher. And
Yep.
yeah, I've been doing that since. Work as a special needs teacher here in Sydney.
Yep. And so mate, we deal with so many teachers. It's so good. Look, education, construction. I guess with your trades and your medical, they're really key. I guess key occupations, etc. That immigration's looking for at the moment. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your teaching role. So are you teaching a particular subject at high school?
So yeah, previously, maybe 10 years ago, I switched to special education, and I've sort of been in special ed or learning support or that kind of area since then. I probably have been, I've taught commerce, business studies, they do legal studies here as well. But yeah, I focus right now on special needs. So like working with
Yep.
kids of all ages, really.
Okay. Nice. And teaching in Australia, I mean, we can't really compare it because
Well,
you
actually,
got qualified over
Actually,
here.
I
But
have actually been back. As I said to you, I have been here for that long, but I actually went home for 6 months, so I can
yep.
actually talk to people who maybe think, what's life like there, what's life like here now. I went home for 6 months in 2023, or 2020, no, 2023. Came back in the mid of 2024. Um,
Yep.
and I taught there for 6 months near enough, and it was night and day. It's 100%
In what way, mate? Better or what would you say? Better in Australia or better back
better in
home?
Australia by
And what made it better?
80%, 90% better. Just like people, I guess the profession here definitely really look after you, whereas at home, especially in Belfast and Northern Ireland, they don't value you. The pay obviously is a big one. Being a temporary worker, a casual worker in Northern Ireland, and I think across the UK, isn't great. I had a very tough time being able to work out how I was getting paid, how many days I was able to work. Where it's kind of very clear here, like what you get paid, when you get paid. If you're casual, you get paid on X date. If you're casual, you get this rate. It was not like that at home.
What I mean, you don't have to
Oh
answer
yeah,
these
go ahead.
questions because it could be personal or not. But teacher, high school teacher, living in Sydney, what are you earning, mate?
Yeah, as I said, I'm an open book. I like to because I like to hear the real story from people. Like I guess after I'm at the top of the pay scale, so this is like you have to take it into context. If you're starting out, you're not making this amount of money, but like I make up to 150, maybe more, just from my main
Was that
job.
sorry? Was that 115 or 150?
150, 50. Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
massive.
I mean, because here they,
$150,000.
I know,
Well done, mate. And then you're at the top of the scale. So for the listeners, would you mind going top,
Yeah.
middle, and bottom, and explain what that difference is?
Yeah, so if you come across and you're a teacher and you're thinking, what am I going to earn? Because obviously, if you're coming with a family, you really need to know how much you're earning. That's a big thing. If you have zero experience and you're fresh out of uni, you're making at least 80 something thousand. I don't know exactly the number. And this is New South Wales, by the way, but most of them are pretty much on average around the similar. You're making 80-ish, maybe 89 or something, I think, or actually 87 or I don't know, something around there. Middle is probably around 100,000. That's with a few years of experience. That's with also doing what they call here accreditation in New South Wales. So you have to kind of at least do some sort of like meet the standards kind of thing. And then
Hmm.
the top of the pay scale is about 140, but I make more money because I do other things at the school.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because so for example, actually, I probably would maybe make 160 with all the extra things I do, but conservatively, but yeah, I probably make around 150 on average. That's just with like the extra things. Again,
But you get your holidays still,
oh
right?
yeah,
With that extra stuff, you still get, as a teacher, what, you work 6 days a year and the rest of holidays? Is that right? Or
I wish that's my dream job. So yeah, basically, you can still get the holidays. Like it really depends if you work in public or private, and that's like, look, there's a big debate about public and private education. It's going to be forever there, but I just think if I'm doing the same job as someone else. In another sector, but I'm getting paid 20 grand less. I just think like I would rather get paid 20 grand more, especially living in Sydney. It's
so you're private
yeah.
then?
So it's expensive.
Okay.
Obviously the public education salaries have gone up a lot. So it's nearly on par now. Like it's really quite close. There's not a big gap anymore. So you can expect if you're public to make probably about 10 grand less than what I said, up to maybe 5 grand less.
Okay. Did mate? Did you ever teach in another state? Because I know you mentioned at the start you came here as a working holiday and you brought a instead of a backpack you brought a suitcase. Have you taught in any other states of Australia?
No, but I've been a lifeguard. I've done like lots of other jobs, but never actually
Because
taught in another state.
look, we put all of our clients in a Facebook group, and when the word Sydney gets mentioned, I think they go, "Oh wow, that's really expensive." And obviously, lots of people live in Sydney. Lots of young tradies live in
Yeah.
Sydney. It is a little destination area for, I think, for working holiday for backpackers, and especially the like Irish tradies and everything like that. I speak to lots of them every day, and they're either in Sydney or WA. To be
Yeah,
honest,
makes
uh,
sense.
your cost of living on that salary that you earn, how does that, are you living a high life? Is that challenging? Do you consider yourself well off with that salary, or that's what you would need to be having if you're living in Sydney?
Well, because I've traveled to each state, I have friends in every state. I kind of have no, like, I guess across the board. Like difference is I'm single. I'm one person. My wage for me is actually quite good. Like it's in living in Sydney, it has got way more expensive than it
Hmm.
was 10 years ago. Like, 10 years ago, I was able to buy, a property outright cash at home, whereas here I couldn't do that now. It's just not affordable to save the same amount of money. I live the high life, really. Like, I do. Like, I was probably about 5 years ago, I was really like, what I called is delayed gratification, where like you would save and you would not go out and not be social as much. But
Hmm.
as I've got older, I was like those things kind of, I've done the things I want to do. I've traveled, I've done this, and I've done that. But
Yeah.
you kind of get to a point where now you're like you need to enjoy your life. But for me, definitely 150-ish is definitely is good for Sydney. But rent
Yeah.
is probably your biggest expense. Rent, obviously, and then there's food after that.
What's your rent like? Like, are you
Yeah,
apartment or a
yeah.
townhouse
So I've got
or?
an apartment, 2 bedroom. You're talking like, I mean, I'm 25 minutes from the city by bus. There's a ferry not around the corner, and it's probably around 850 a week. Sorry, 850 a week.
$850 a
Yeah,
week. So I just happen to have a calculator right next to me,
I know
Darren.
it's
So let's just do the maths on that, mate. Times 52. So you're 44,200 Australian
Yeah,
dollars a year.
it's disgusting.
Mate, a third of your salary, or whatever, we push it to 160, it's a quarter, but still goes on renting. As you said, you're in a beautiful spot. You've got a
Yeah.
great area, you're close to all the things that make Sydney good that you rely on.
Well, look, I mean, what I should have said there is also I do have a flatmate, so that's what brings the cost down half.
Oh, so yours half
Yeah,
is
but
that.
I guess it's good for people to understand that if you are renting a two bedroom, like that is around the cost you expect to have for a new-ish build. If you go for an
Yep.
older apartment in Sydney or anywhere in Australia, really, you pay less. You know.
Dear. So years ago when I was living in a beautiful place of the world called Acton,
Yeah.
yep, Acton in
Yeah.
London. We used to. I had a partner at the time, but my mates had a share house when they were full of Aussies. I think at one point they would have had about 15 of them in there, and you used to pay like $50 if you got just like
Yeah.
£50 a week. If but you had to sleep in the
Oh my
bath, which
goodness.
was basically you go to bed and you sleep in the bathroom when everyone else is finished, and when someone has to get up, you just got to get out. But that's because people are in between, Croatia and everything
Yeah.
else. Is it like that in Sydney? Have the young work and holiday people
Oh my
listening?
goodness. Yes.
Do people do that? Is that accepted or unheard
Yes,
of?
no, that it's all like if you're renting, people come here, especially working holiday visas, especially with the blog, people often ask, email me and ask me like, do you share houses? Is that common? Yes, you do. That is very common. Like I don't think I ever know any like I don't know many people that have their own place that if they have bought their place maybe they're living by themselves, but many people are sharing. I mean, I've done my fair share when I was working holiday visas, like having seven people in the house and barely being able to move. I think that's the working holiday dream. Like it's kind of fun and at the time, but once you get over that and go into a more permanent visa, you kind of want your own space.
Yeah. Well, it is. That's what it is. That's your journey in life,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's what it's about. Making as much
Yes.
trouble and having as much fun as you can when you're young, and then you get older and you get a job and your career comes in, and
Yeah, yeah.
for some it's families, for others it's just living the
You know,
dream. Which
yeah,
is,
and
I'm just sorry. I'll just go back there. When I say living the dream, you definitely live the dream with
oh
a
yeah,
family as
for sure.
well as being a single person living in
Yeah, I
Sydney,
mean,
which is
obviously, that it is very different for a family to come to Sydney. Like, if a family asked me, would they like if you didn't have a huge amount of money, if you didn't have more than my salary each and more, I wouldn't come to Sydney. Like, it's just not affordable for the average like worker, that's making a hundred less than 100,000. It's just, especially if you have kids.
But Darren, what about outside? So let's say you're right in the heart, right?
Well, yeah,
You're 10 minutes
I
away.
I
What,
think
what if
I'm
you're 40 minutes away from Sydney?
Even then, like you're still talking, like even to buy a house that far away, you're still talking nearly $1 million. Like, if
Yep.
you want a house, your best bets are to go to places that I think are amazing and lovely. Like everybody's like, you live in Sydney, you have no idea, but I actually love other parts of Australia and probably would move there. Like
Yep.
Brisbane, Gold Coast is lovely. Sunshine Coast. You've got Melbourne. Obviously, Melbourne actually is more affordable than Sunshine Coast at the moment, which is unheard of, which is crazy. And also, like you got Western Australia, which is just unreal. You know.
I think everywhere's going up, but
Yeah.
also the prices, the amount of employers that hit us up. I had a call today with a lady that's looking for, I don't know, three or four Sparkies, but also some
Yeah.
cablers. And I asked her about the salaries, and it was quite high. But they're looking to bring people on employer sponsored visas. And I pretty much had the conversation with her. I said, oh, look, Sydney for a family is hard unless it depends on what they're paying. But then you get lots of people, I guess, that maybe followed a similar journey to you, Darren, where they've gone to Sydney, had an awesome time, gone back home, thought, geez, I'd love to get back there, but to maybe they've gone done unis
Yeah.
or finished their apprenticeship or whatever, then they get stuck having a family or have the family, and then come back out and they want to move to Sydney and they make it work, because we get so many families that do make it
Oh,
work.
yeah, for
But
sure.
as you say, you've got to both be working by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I mean, like the thing is, people don't realize you come over, and if you're on PR straight away, you don't actually get all the entitled benefits for children.
Yep.
especially noticed from my sister, like she didn't have any maternity pay because she was not even PR by then. She was still on a visa. She didn't get, the childcare subsidies. So
Yep.
there's all these things that play into a lot of like decisions. And I think like if Sydney is your dream, like your ultimate dream, you don't want to go anywhere else. You've seen it, you've done it, you want to come back. Great, do it. But if you want a quality of life with a house, with a backyard, with a pool, unless you have or you're coming with millions, like it's very unrealistic. And I think you have to be realistic in this journey because it's not what it was like 10 years ago when you could buy a house with a pool for like 500, 600,000, um, and it's just not, it's hard for some people to hear that because they think like the whole life they think they'll be by the beach, and they'll just have a great time in Sydney. You'll not be by the beach unless you're renting, unless you have millions. So
Mm. But it's different because I think that you got Sydney, so I'm on the Mornington Peninsula, which is very different to Melbourne, but it's also a little bit expensive here because we've got the water,
yeah,
right? But there's like there's suburbs where I grew up in, which is now like in a place called Knox, and we used to go out in Melbourne, and it would be like I don't know, $40 cab ride, but it was 45 minutes drive.
mm,
And the house prices are there, like anywhere from like currently now anywhere from sort of like 850 to 1.1
yeah,
million is what they are there now. But they go, oh, we've got a freeway that we've just built, so now the city's a little bit closer, and you can come down on the Peninsula Link, which is where we are. Everything changes. So areas around Sydney, like the 45-minute away, are they still? I guess I asked this before, but are they still really, really expensive?
yeah. So I mean, I bought an apartment 50 minutes from the city, from Sydney. It's up sort of northwest. It's an up and coming area, and it's like a two-bedroom, and you're talking close to 600,000.
Yeah,
And that was a couple of years ago. They're still roughly around that price or just slightly more because it's an apartment, it's not a house. If I was going for a house at the time, which was probably about 3 or 4 years ago,
yeah,
it's that even then they were 900,000. So when I looked recently, because thinking, okay, maybe I should just cash in the house or the apartment and get a house because that's what
yeah,
ultimately kind of want. You are still thinking like a million or more, 50 minutes from the
yeah,
city,
yeah.
and it depends on what you're doing. If you're coming and you're selling every single item you ever own, you might have a chance, and you probably will.
Yeah, I think, look, Darren, lots of our listeners are probably the permanent residency people
Yeah,
that might be selling a property, in the
yeah,
UK, and not everyone, but I think when we've done the other podcast, lots of them have sold properties, and with the conversion at the moment 2 to 1,
yeah,
they're sort of arriving at a really
very
good.
much so.
Yeah, it's been okay. Now let's move on from that. What was the most challenging part of your relocation, mate?
I think I mean, I had a weird time because obviously I did uni, so I had some friends and I had some close knit people when I came back. So mine was a bit different, but I definitely think that the meeting friends, especially in Sydney, was the hardest because you never felt settled. Like you would meet expats, but for me, when I met an expat, I would feel more homesick
Okay.
rather than actually like feeling comforted. I guess everyone's different, but I think that was probably the hardest thing was actually meeting friends who would be like those kind of always like friends for life kind of thing, or like at least be around you when you have children or that sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah, no, friends for life. So I guess it's hard. That's one of the things you give up when you travel. If you
Yeah,
are on the move, you sacrifice that and you miss out on. I remember being away, mate. I missed out on all of my mates' 30th
yeah,
birthdays.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
And it
really
happens like you miss it. Like I've missed out on so many experiences being here, but you still wouldn't trade it for the world because now that I know
nah,
that I have
no way.
done when I went to work for 6 months, I actually just changed my perspective from one that was like, okay, I'm thinking I'm going to move home after 12, 13 years to, oh my goodness, I don't think I could ever work there. What else would I do?
Mhm.
And I don't think I want to live there. So
So
yeah, very different.
just going to ask you, mate, on that one. Just go back to that one about challenging. Was hard making mates and doing that. So how did you go about changing that and making new friends and building a community?
Well, first of all, I think especially if you're arriving by yourself, I would say get stuck in with like groups or sporting groups or some sort of connection that connects you together with other people that's kind of in your home niche. If you like board games, go to like game cafe. I'm just making it up here, but like, you know what I mean? Like, try to find your tribe. If you've got families, all those types of family activities, like my sister meets people at the park and then their kids become friends, like, because everybody's outdoors, so
Yeah.
it's very, you have to find your tribe, and I think that's the hardest. And definitely would say get out, meet people through like even meetup apps, meetup events. There's plenty that you can get involved in. Like, and the thing is, you have to have the confidence to go. That's what you need. You really need the confidence to go
Yeah.
out and put yourself out there, because you are changing your life. You really need to put the effort and the work in. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult.
Cool. What advice would you give to someone who's planning on a similar sort of move to you?
Definitely bring more money than you think you ever going to need.
Yeah, I like that.
Amen. And get travel insurance for repatriation just in case you do something stupid.
And yeah, well, it happens, mate. Unfortunately, we've had some, yeah, you know, people get
Yeah,
hurt and injured. The big sea that that shadows the whole of Australia, doesn't it?
for sure.
It's everywhere. So, what about your lifestyle? Has it obviously it would have changed immensely from Northern Ireland to Sydney? That's like would it be? That's like most opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some. But not only that, I think just generally, like people outdoors, like I think just the lifestyle in general. Like I mean, my whole lifestyle. Like if I was at home, I wouldn't be able to travel as much as I do because I'm not getting paid as much. I wouldn't be able to try and do all the things I want to do. Like, even just go out for dinner. Like when I was in the UK, it's like so much more expensive to eat out. So I
Hmm.
can actually have two dinners here out a week for the same price as there, and I'm getting paid more. I mean, it's all relative, but definitely my lifestyle is
Yeah.
totally different. Like, I'm outdoor much more than I ever was. But anyway,
Oh, that's good. I think that's what people, all the podcasts we do, that's what they're looking for, and that's just what Australia is,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
It's if you want to live outdoors, it's a country that look. I actually I think the medical system here is really good. Are you finding like I mean, like obviously Sydney's a bit different, I guess, to the rest of Australia. It's a bit unique. With the expenses and everything like that, cost of living. But how are you finding the medical side of it and all that being in Australia? You feel safe going to the doctors? Like I can book in the doctors at 10 o'clock in the morning and I'll see a
mm,
doctor where I am in that day for one of my kids or myself if I need
yeah.
to. I'm not waiting weeks on end. Is it like that in Sydney?
Yeah, I mean, like again, I can probably talk to this a lot because I've probably been in hospital here probably about 4 or 5 times. Thank goodness that the staff are so like they're just wonderful. Like I don't think I've ever experienced the care and the
Yeah.
fastness,
Well
the
said.
speed, the price. Like it's just having things done for free and not paying for private to be able to go and do it. Whereas was when I was back in the UK, I actually was quite sick for a week and end up having to go into the emergency room and didn't get seen for like nearly 2 days. So, it's totally night and day. Like, as you said, you can literally book in an appointment and walk in, or you can even just walk in and you still get seen to, like GP straight away.
We I remember Amy, who when we first moved down here, we were talking about, oh look, she'll get private health insurance, whatever. And she turned around and she goes, "Where?" She's been down here for a long time. She's a nurse. She goes, "Honestly, the beds you're paying for at private health are exactly the same as the
Yeah.
beds you're staying in at the same hospital. Again, we're quite remote, so and she's like, it's exactly the same. She was telling my wife, not to worry about. We ended up doing it because of dental and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff you get, and also you don't have to pay. It's
Levy.
important, listeners, as well. If you have your own business or anything like that, if you go over, it's called a Medicare
Yeah.
levy. So if you're earning over a certain amount of money, you end up having to pay a Medicare levy. And that works out to be that tax you pay on that Medicare levy actually works out for our family and the health insurance that we got. It worked out to be like I think $1,500 more a year to get a good health insurance one as
Yeah.
well. But there's a little tip. Um, Any tips you would like to give the listeners before we close this one off, mate?
Just want to say thank you, by the way, for having me on. But yes, I think definitely there's lots of tax advantages here compared to home. So if you do come, I would say look into the strategies and think about how you can benefit yourself and your family. Like I'm still learning every like literally an accountant actually is probably a good accountant. Sorry, is probably your best friend here. I didn't know half the stuff. If I had known that like 10 years ago, I probably would have been multimillionaire. But like I wish this tax, like I wish people understood the tax system a bit more. And I would say get a little bit of a handle on it by listening to different things, researching, because not only does it benefit you, but it'll also benefit your family. Obviously bring more money than you think. Yeah, I think just give it your
But we don't encourage robbing
no.
banks. Make sure it's your money.
Yes. I would also say literally give yourself time to grieve the process that you have just went through, like because you're leaving friends, you're leaving family, and it is a grieving process in a way because like I don't think I've missed as many things in my life from family events and that I would never miss. um and I think you do miss out on things, but there's so many things to be thankful for, and I think you have to give yourself time to go through those
Yes.
emotions and actually just sort of let yourself breathe and enjoy yourself, because if you don't, you will probably be back in the same position you were like a year or 2 years or 3 years from now.
Cool. Any advice for teachers, mate? Like, a teacher moving to Australia, any advice you'd give them? Any things you wish you would have known about teaching? Or I guess it's a bit different for you because you did do a little bit of experience, but predominantly you've always worked in Australia. But anything you'd throw to the teachers listening?
Yeah, tons probably, but quick sort of ones. I would say make sure that if you have experience, is to get that experience counted when you arrive. So, for example, what they call here is a salary determination, is basically getting your evidence to say that you were teaching for so long, because that will move you up the pay scale. Because a few people have come to me and said, I'm a teacher, but I've got 10 years experience, but I'm only going to earn 86,000. I was like, that's not correct. You need to, I mean, so you need to follow the process, ask people for help.
Who decides that though, Darren? Is that the school who decides that, or do you like fill in a
Yeah, so
form?
it's all form based here. Is a lot of like, it's the education authority in whatever state you are in.
But how do you prove it? Because I could say I've been a teacher for
Yeah.
12
You
years.
have to have evidence. So you have to bring with you, for example, like, statements of service, a couple of references if you have them. Just like the standard stuff you would bring. Paperwork.
Pay evidence?
Yeah, lots of paperwork. Any paperwork you have, pay slips, doesn't matter. But
Mm.
I'd also say, yeah, teaching here is very different. So get to know the curriculum. The curriculum is slightly different. The way they, some of them don't finish at like what we call, I think here is year 10. Most of them stay all the way to year 12, unless you go off and do
Okay.
college, and you get an apprenticeship. And it's a very different way of, some of them don't want to be there until year 12, really. So it
Yeah.
is a bit different in that terms. But I definitely enjoy it. I think you should follow your passion. So if you are, teaching here, give yourself a fair go. Like literally, if you think you can go for the next level up, go for it. Because I've went through a couple of different promotions and I didn't even think that, I was maybe ready. But they give you a go, and
If you don't ask, you never
that's it.
know,
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
if you don't apply, people here jump around jobs so quickly. Like I have never seen so many people jump from job to job. That whereas back home, that was never the way. It was never
Yeah.
the culture. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, mate, I reckon I get in trouble by Lisa if I get the podcast going too
Yeah,
much. I always
we
let
covered
her
a
know
lot.
that.
Thank you.
But mate, really appreciate you reaching out to the Down Under Centre and wanting to sort of share your story, and I hope that benefits our listeners, and all the best with everything too, mate. And maybe we'll catch up again on another podcast or
Yeah,
something. But that was Darren Jonathon, guys, and thank you again, Darren. And we'll see you on the next podcast, everyone.
thank you.